What if the family that threw you away accidentally handed you the only key to everything they had spent decades trying to hide? When Emma Vale was cut off from the Ashford family the morning after her 18th birthday, she thought the worst thing she had lost was a last name. She did not yet understand that sometimes being rejected is not a door closing. Sometimes it is the only reason you are standing outside the right door when it finally opens. The law office on Madison Avenue was too warm, too quiet, and too polished for grief. Rain tapped against the tall windows like impatient fingers, while Emma sat at the far end of a shining walnut table in a borrowed black coat with a missing button. Across from her sat her uncle Malcolm Ashford, his wife Celeste, and their son Nolan, all dressed like people who had ordered sadness from a luxury catalog and expected applause for wearing it. Emma had not seen them in almost 2 years. Not since the night she told them she was leaving their house, their rules, and their constant reminders that she was difficult. Difficult meant she asked questions. Difficult meant she did not laugh when Nolan mocked the housekeepers. Difficult meant she refused to apologize for loving who she loved. Her grandmother, Beatrice Ashford, had been the only one who never called her difficult. Beatrice called her brave. Mr. Alden, the estate attorney, adjusted his glasses and opened the will. His voice moved through the room like a knife wrapped in velvet. Malcolm received the Ashford investment accounts. Celeste received the townhouse furniture and antique silver. Nolan received 3 classic cars, 2 company shares, and a watch collection worth more than Emma had earned in her entire life. Then Mr. Alden looked at Emma. To my granddaughter, Emma Vale, I leave the property located at 88 Crow Hollow Road, including the original mill house and all contents within. For 1 second, no one moved. Then Nolan laughed so hard he nearly dropped his phone. "The mill," he said. "She left you the moldy old mill?" Celeste pressed a hand to her pearls, smiling like she was trying not to enjoy herself too much. "Oh, Emma, that place is practically in the woods. It has no heat, no proper road, and the county marked it unsafe years ago." Malcolm leaned back in his chair. "Your grandmother bought it in the 70s for some ridiculous hobby project and abandoned it. The roof is bad. The foundation is worse. Taxes are due every year. Honestly, it is less inheritance and more punishment." Emma kept her hands folded because if she moved, they would see them shaking. Mr. Alden cleared his throat. "The taxes are current for this year. After that, Miss Vale will be responsible." Nolan grinned. "With what money?" "Last I heard, she was making coffee for theater kids." Emma looked at him. "Actually, I serve everyone coffee. Rich people burn their tongues just like the rest of us." His grin disappeared. Malcolm stood, buttoning his coat. "Emma, take my advice. Sign it over before it becomes a problem. I know a man who buys land parcels. He might give you a few thousand out of pity. Why would anyone pay thousands for a problem?" Emma asked. Malcolm's face tightened for half a breath. "Because land is land." And there it was, that tiny crack in his voice. Not kindness, not pity, hunger. After they left, Mr. Alden waited until the door clicked shut. Then he reached into his drawer and placed a small envelope on the table. "Your grandmother instructed me to give this to you privately." Emma opened it carefully. Beatrice's handwriting curved across the page, elegant but unsteady. "My dearest Emma," by now they have laughed. Let them. They always believed value had to announce itself in gold, marble, and signatures on bank papers. The mill house was never abandoned. It was protected. Go there quickly, in the room with the broken water wheel. Find the red brick beneath the east window. Press it inward. What waits behind that wall belongs to you, not by accident, but because I chose you. Trust your instincts. Trust no Ashford. Build the life they tried to make you ashamed of wanting. I loved you first. I love you still. Grandmother." Emma read the letter 3 times in the restroom before she could breathe normally. The next morning, she borrowed her roommate's old blue Subaru and drove north before sunrise. The city thinned into suburbs, the suburbs into farms, and the farms into narrow roads lined with bare trees. Her phone lost signal 15 miles from Crow Hollow. The final road was gravel, then mud, then 2 strips of tire tracks vanishing between pines. The mill house appeared at the edge of a frozen creek. It was bigger than Emma expected, built from gray stone and dark timber, leaning slightly as if tired of standing. The old water wheel hung on one side, cracked and moss-covered. Half the windows were boarded. Vines had swallowed the porch. Snow rested in the broken places of the roof. Emma sat in the car, staring. "This is fine," she whispered. "Very normal. Definitely not how horror movies begin." She grabbed her flashlight and stepped into the cold. The front door resisted, then opened with a groan that sounded almost human. Inside, the air smelled of wetwood dust and something metallic. Her flashlight crossed piles of old lumber, rusted gears, torn sacks, and bird nests in the rafters. The floor creaked under every step. She found the room with the water wheel at the back. Moon-pale daylight slipped through cracks in the boards. The wheel's massive axle entered the wall, surrounded by stone and ancient iron. Beneath the east window was a row of red bricks, darker than the rest. Emma knelt and pressed the first. Nothing. The second. Nothing. The third shifted inward with a soft click. A section of wall released. Behind it was not a small compartment. It was a steel door. Emma's pulse jumped. A keypad sat beside it, dead and dusty. But below the keypad was a keyhole. She took out the ring Mr. Alden had given her. The third key turned. The steel door opened into a hidden room, dry, warm, and shockingly clean. Lights flickered on automatically. Emma forgot how to breathe. The room was lined with shelves from floor to ceiling. Not money, not jewelry. Books. Hundreds of them. Leather-bound volumes, handwritten journals, sealed boxes, framed maps, and glass cases containing letters yellowed with age. In the center stood a long table covered with white cloth, and on that cloth lay stacks of manuscripts. Emma walked forward slowly. The first page she touched was handwritten and signed by Lillian Ashford, 1894. She knew that name. Everyone in the family did, but only as a footnote. Lillian was an unstable great-great-aunt who had supposedly embarrassed the family by writing strange stories and refusing marriage. Her portraits had been removed from the townhouse hallway long before Emma was born. On the shelf beside the manuscripts, Emma found a journal by Beatrice. The first entry said they buried Lillian because she told the truth too beautifully. Emma turned the pages, heart pounding. Lillian Ashford had not been unstable. She had been a writer, a brilliant one. Her novels had been rejected under her own name, then secretly published under a male pen name, E.L. Harrow. Emma froze when she read that. E.L. Harrow was famous. His Gothic novels were taught in universities. His first edition sold for fortunes. His identity had been debated for decades, and he had been a woman named Lillian. Beatrice had discovered the truth in 1974 and spent her life gathering proof. Letters from publishers, original drafts, contracts, diaries, printing plates. Even the first handwritten version of Harrow's most famous novel, The House Beneath the Hill. Emma sat down hard in the chair. Her family fortune, the Ashford name, the company, the respectability, all of it had been built partly on a woman they erased while profiting from the prestige her hidden work brought them. A sound outside snapped Emma upright. Car doors. Voices. She clicked off the table lamp and moved to the cracked window. A black SUV sat beside the Subaru. Nolan stepped out first, then Malcolm, followed by two men in work boots. Malcolm said, "I want the place clear before she gets sentimental." One worker frowned. "You said your niece owns it." "She's a child," Malcolm snapped, "and the structure is unsafe. Once it collapses, ownership becomes complicated." Emma backed away, cold fear crawling up her spine. They were not here to help. They were here to destroy. She pulled Beatrice's journal, 3 manuscripts, and a packet of letters into her backpack, then shut the hidden door as quietly as she could. She slipped through a side exit just as Nolan entered the front room. From behind a tree, Emma watched him kick through debris. One worker swung a crowbar into a wall. Dust burst into the air. "Careful," Malcolm barked. "Check before you break anything sealed." So he knew there was something. Maybe not what, but something. Emma ran. She drove straight back to the city with numb hands and no music. By evening, she sat in the office of Dr. Miriam Vale, a literary historian her college professor had once mentioned. Dr. Vale spent 4 hours reading the letters, comparing signatures, and whispering words Emma could not understand. Finally, the professor removed her glasses. "Emma," she said, "this is not just valuable. This changes literary history." Emma swallowed. How valuable? Dr. Vale looked at the manuscript on the table. If authenticated, the original manuscript of The House Beneath the Hill alone could be worth several $1,000,000. But the larger value is cultural. You have proof that E.L. Harrow was Lillian Ashford. Scholars have searched for this for 50 years. Emma laughed once because crying felt too predictable. "My uncle is trying to demolish the mill." Dr. Vale's expression hardened. "Then we stop him tonight." Within 48 hours, the mill was under emergency historical review. Within a week, a preservation attorney filed documents proving that all contents belonged to Emma. Malcolm challenged the will. Nolan claimed Emma had stolen family property. Celeste called her ungrateful in 3 different charity circles. But Beatrice had prepared everything. There was a notarized declaration, a video recording, an inventory sealed with Mr. Alden years before. In court, Malcolm's attorney argued that Beatrice had been manipulated. Emma's attorney played the video. Beatrice appeared on screen, frail but fierce. She said, "My family erased Lillian. They will not erase Emma." The judge denied Malcolm's petition in under 10 minutes. 1 year later, the restored Mill House opened as the Lillian Ashford Center for Forgotten Women Writers. Scholars came from London, Boston, Paris, and Tokyo. The manuscripts were insured, archived, and exhibited behind glass. A museum purchased several first editions for enough money that Emma never had to serve coffee again, unless she wanted to. She kept the mill. She kept Beatrice's letter framed above the table in the hidden room. And on opening night, standing beneath warm lights while visitors whispered over Lillian's pages, Emma thought about the day her family laughed at her. They thought they had given her ruins. They thought rejection had made her weak. They thought being unwanted meant being worthless. But ruins are funny things. Sometimes they are not endings. Sometimes they are covers. Sometimes a broken wall is only there to protect a treasure until the right person arrives with shaking hands, an old key, and nothing left to lose. Emma looked at Lillian's signature, then at Beatrice's letter and smiled, because the family had not disowned her from the inheritance. They had disowned her straight into it.